So again, it's Paul Kirkman from Raymac. Some tips and tricks. Well, some tips anyway. Early on I bought a few of these bottles for putting thinners in, and also washout thinners to wash out my guns. These bottles are absolutely worth every penny I paid for them. I've used them a lot, but I did make a small mistake when I first ordered. I bought 3 of these and I bought 4 of those. I wish I'd have bought 8 of these. The bigger ones, you don't get as much pressure. They're just not as efficient. They do hold more fluid, but that's usually not the problem. The problem is when they get down to about there, they're more problematic, especially when you sit them up and you've got them sitting around in your shed for a few days. Air pressure changes and the temperature changes and gases build up in here, and they actually force fluid out there, and they'll start dripping out the end. So long as whatever's underneath it is not susceptible to thinners, it's all good, other than, you know, maybe your shed might blow up one day. And it only happens to the bigger ones. It happens far less to the smaller ones because of the sheer volume of the air and the amount of moisture that's in there. These ones can tend to dribble. You can overcome it by every time you go home just loosening that off a little bit, and that lets air in there and it no longer builds up enough pressure in there to push fluid back out the top. As I said, it tends to happen to the bigger ones. It doesn't really happen so much to the small ones. I still loosen them off, but you can get so much more squeeze in there. They're not as heavy, they're more agile. So stick with the 250s. This is a 250 size. I put thinners in them. I put washout gun thinners in them. I use a couple of different brands of paint. I've used Basilac and De Beer paints. All my base coats and decorative colours of De Beer. The only thing I use from the other brand is Basilac Clear, and that's because it's a very freaky paint. But anyway, we're talking about these. So you'll see a little tapered end on these, and there's a hole in there that's probably around about 1 millimetre, and it's too big for washing your guns out. It's a bit too wasteful on thinners and stuff like that. So quite often I get one of these, which is a blunt end dispensing needle. It doesn't have the sharp point on it. This is an 18 gauge one. I think that's about the right size. So what you can do is you can actually put a little bend in them, because they're stainless steel tube. Just be very careful how you bend it. You'll kink it. It is possible to kink it. You can put a little bend in them, like so, and they're actually meant to squeeze onto the ends, like so. So that lets you hold this up dead straight, put your airbrush underneath it, and squirt away. You can also rearrange it like so. You can twist them around to wherever you want. So you can have these adapter needles on the end. You use a lot less. These needles, 20 cents or something, if you buy them by a 20 pack or 50 pack. Some chemists keep them, but not very many. I picked this up on eBay along with these. These were like $2.50 each, and I bought 50 of these for like 10 bucks, I think it was, or 8 bucks. So real cheap, 18 gauge. 18 gauge is about the right size. It gives you enough solvent that you can water stuff down your cup, but you don't go overboard by putting too much in there. And it also lets you get around some of the nooks and crannies that can show up on the airbrush. A good example would be the side feed airbrushes that I have, where I can actually pop it in the side there and run it around the corner and squirt thinners up in and around those areas. Also, if I want to clean out the nozzle a bit, I can give it a quick squirt in there. So yeah, these are very, very handy. Can't recommend them enough. There's also some plastic tips you can stick on there as well. You can buy plastic tips. They tend to come in a straight one with a taper on them. They fit on there as well with the lure lock fitting, and you can get them with a much smaller hole so that you're not wasting even less thinners. But as I said, I found the 18 gauge and probably the 20 gauge to be an ideal size for washing out airbrushes. Gives you, and you've got enough control. So stay away from the bigger 500mm ones. and stick with the 250s, just get more of them. They don't dribble as much. You can get more pressure with them when you're squeezing the bottle. Yeah, they're a lot better, I find, for airbrushes. Anyway, that's the end of my quick tip. Hope you enjoyed it.